round 2 of the college football playoff. We'll start with number 6, Penn State, number 3, Boise State. By the way, we were 2-1 last weekend in the Trace Otra games. So we'll be trying to match that or do better. Penn State at Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. It's a 6:30 p.m. kick on ESPN tomorrow night. First game of the playoffs on Tuesday night. Penn State, massive favorite in this game, 11.5 points. It's a very evenly matched game offensively. You look at Penn State, they're a little more pass heavy than they are run heavy. You look at Boise State, they're a little more run heavy than pass heavy. Both pretty balanced, but that's kind of how they fall. Offensively, tightly matched teams. Penn State has a clear edge defensively. Boise State, pretty good against the run, not very good against the pass. Another opportunity for those Boise State, what the hell are they, Broncos, to step up in the big boy games. They've done it before. Played a real tough game against Oregon earlier this year. They're a good team, for sure. Thing I just keep going back to is, can James Franklin, can he win a big game? We asked that ahead of the Big Ten title game. He was 1-13 against top 5 teams going into that one. Now he's 1-14 against top 5 teams. Can Penn State slow down Austin Jeanty? I don't know. We'll find out in a little over 24 hours. I think Boise State's had an incredible year. But, man, I feel like Penn State's roster's just better. It's just probably better in the trenches. I think Penn State's going to get it done. I think Boise State covers, though. I think it's a close game. I got Penn State 27-24 over Boise State. I really like Boise State. But, man, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if when they played up with Oregon, if that was them truly playing up or if that's just how good they are. And then again, James Franklin, can he win a big game? So far, he's not been able to do that very well. Number 8, Ohio State at number 1, Oregon, Rose Bowl in Pasadena. That's kind of cool. This would have been a traditional Rose Bowl game back in the day. $4 p.m. kick on ESPN. That's on Wednesday the 1st. Ohio State, a 2.5-point favorite coming off that big win against Tennessee in round 1. This is a rematch of an earlier game up in Eugene that Oregon won 32-31. Kind of a crazy play at the end where Will Howard slides down too late, or I don't know exactly what the deal was. I wasn't watching the game. I forgot what game we had that week, but we were en route somewhere. Oregon, the only undefeated team left. Power 5. I mean, I think Power 4, whatever. I mean, I think they are the only undefeated team left. A lot of people talking about after that win against Tennessee how Ohio State's playing the best ball in the country right now. Man, people are so just fickle. This is the same Ohio State team that just a week before that, a couple weeks before that, got embarrassed at home by Michigan. I mean, I don't think this team just all of a sudden flipped a switch and became awesome. And I don't think that Michigan win or Michigan loss rather was as bad as it looked. I mean, it's a rivalry game. Shit happens. But now all of a sudden someone's going to win this week in a blowout, and that's going to be the team that everybody thinks is going to win the national championship. It's so fickle. It changes every week. Pick somebody and stick to your guns. And don't give me this, the information. We have seen 12, 13 games from these teams. You have all the information you're ever going to get about these teams. Oregon, a little bit better offensively. Ohio State, better defensively by a little bit more than Oregon is better than Ohio State offensively. To me, this one comes down to the QBs. We thought first go around we picked this game, and we thought Dylan Gabriel would make some plays with his legs, which he did. And I kind of feel like he'll do that again. I mean, that's what he does. On the flip side, Will Howard had an outstanding game against Tennessee. Can he do that again against Oregon? Tennessee's not a slouch of a defense. I think if I'm looking at these two quarterbacks, I like Dylan Gabriel, and I just am going to like Dylan Gabriel, and nothing else is going to change that. Now, that doesn't mean, the supporting cast for Ohio State doesn't step up, and I mean, anything can happen there. But if we're just looking apples to apples, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel's my guy. If I got to pick one to go win a game, picking Dylan Gabriel because he's done it. Will Howard, I don't think, has ever done it. I think Oregon's going to win it, man. I think they're going to win another close one. I think it's going to be lower scoring this time. Both these defenses is pretty good. Ohio State's is really good. I got Oregon 27-24 over Ohio State. And the same kind of scenario, man. I just think Dylan Gabriel is going to do something with his feet that's going to be the difference in the game. Number 7, Notre Dame. At number 2, Georgia. Sugar Bowl. 7:45 p.m. on ESPN Wednesday night. It's the late game. Georgia 1.5-point favorite, despite not having QB1. We know Notre Dame wants to run the ball. I think Georgia's going to have to. I mean, I don't. Stockton he's a talented kid. He wouldn't be at Georgia if he wasn't talented. But we saw him make some really good plays in that SEC championship game with his arm, and then we also saw him do some really dumb stuff with his arm. We saw him not have the pocket. I mean, just the speed of the game is just a lot different. Even from practice at the D1 level to an actual game, it's just different. And I don't know if just these few weeks he's had to get comfortable is enough to actually get comfortable. I mean, we'll find. I definitely think Georgia's going to do their best to pass the ball, but keep him protected. They're certainly not going to put it all on Stockton. If they have to do that, I think they're in trouble. And again, it's nothing against him. If he gets hurt halfway through, if Carson Beck gets hurt halfway through the season and Stockton's got all these games under his belt, probably a different story. So I think Georgia's going to have to try to lean on the run some in this game, and they just really haven't been that good at doing it. However, I would say they've been pretty good in two really big games this year doing it. So I think the questions for me are, can the players around Stockton, can they lift him up? We've seen that in the past with Georgia. I think another kind of interesting question storyline about this game, which coach loses patience first? Because I think Notre Dame is just going to come in and they think they can run the ball, and I think that's what they're going to try to do. So how long does Notre Dame just go head first into that wall of Georgia's defense before they lose patience? And then same thing for Georgia. If Georgia can't have success early offensively, does Kirby Smart ever lose patience? That's something I feel like he's really good. He is the whiniest. Me and my dad were talking about this weekend. That dude is the whiniest coach I have ever seen on the sideline. So you got to hate him for that. He is punchable. But you got to love that he sticks to his guns and he is patient and he'll just keep going with the game plan, trusting that somebody on that talented roster is going to make a play, and it normally happens. It's really, 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 really hard for me to doubt Georgia. We've talked multiple times this year about how they're the standard. They're the gold standard of college football, and they have been. I mean, despite the success that Alabama's had, even recently, they've been the gold standard for a while now, few years. They absolutely have a loaded roster, as loaded as anybody else in the country. So it's tough to just go, man, Georgia doesn't have their starter. I can't I can't go with them. I think if ND can run the ball, I think they win this one because I that's what they want to do, and they do it pretty well. And that's the the teams that haven't been able to beat Georgia. And I'm looking at you, Texas. They couldn't run the ball. I like this Notre Dame team, man. I think they're tough defensively. I think they're good running the football. I just think Georgia's just too tough in the trenches, though. Just consistently too tough. And I think this is the kind of game where Kirby Smart, for whatever reason, he's just comfortable watching stuff not go well for a long time because he knows eventually something's good's going to happen if they just keep going. I mean, it's what they did in the SEC championship game. It's what they would have done in the first game against Texas if Texas didn't give them the ball 30 times inside their 40-yard line. Just hand them 23 points. I got Georgia 23-16 over Notre Dame.